so this is titled State Enforced Sex Education for Toddlers. And, you know, that's pretty much, you know, what it is. And I know that some people will remember we've been on here before. We've discussed this before. This was in the run-up to, you know, the warnings, you know, when people... more, you know, specifically Public Child Protection Wales, who dedicated everything to trying to warn people about this sex education coming into play. So for people who aren't aware, basically it was during COVID time, wasn't it, where the public consultation was supposed to be happening for mandatory sex education in schools from age 3. It's a global rollout. It isn't specific to Wales. So what I'm going to talk about here today, I've structured it around Wales because that's where we're from and that's where I've got some of the examples from. But this is in England as well, so this isn't just specific to Wales.
And it's UNESCO.
UNESCO and World Health Organization, yeah. So in 2022, a group called Public Child Protection Wales launched a legal battle against the Welsh Government to try and, you know, not allow this to be mandatory, because what it was, it removed your right as a parent to opt out of any of these classes. So you got the first, I'm just going to fly through the headlines just to show the BBC when their sex education curriculum legal challenge launched. And obviously, nice picture there with the, you know, just with the pill. So it's as if it's oh, there we go. You know, as if that's what they're teaching them about. You know, it's about safety and stuff. Because obviously,
well, why would you need to teach a toddler about the bloody pill?
Exactly.
This is mad.
Yeah. And then obviously Wales Online one as well, just to show that they're opposed to teaching young children about gender identity and sex. Take Welsh Government to court. It did go on. Me and Stan went the 2 days court case. Unfortunately, the next headline will show the girls did lose, which was really unfortunate. And you had some things to say about the court, you know, and the biasness of the court itself.
So, sorry, just a quick thing. The High Court confirmed that this stuff is now compulsory. So you can't opt out of weird, like, you know, woke teachers perverting your children.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Because in my time in school, back in the day, when I was 10... they had to give you a slip that you would give to your parents, and your parents would sign it if they consented to you getting the sex education at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I bet that would have been very, you know...
It was one lesson, it was very rudimentary, and all of the kids giggled at it.
Yeah.
So I can only hope that, given that children are uniformly incredibly immature, that's the response that's going to happen with most of these kids.
I wish.
That's the best case scenario, seeing as
that is the
apparently
best.
It's a legal enforcement now.
So we had a left-wing judge, and we had basically a defence lawyer that lied to the court. He said that this was not a global rollout from UNESCO. It was not based on Alfred Kinsey's macabre
adult behaviour in human male. Book.
And the paedophiles that he employed to
abuse children.
To look at this, to put it into this report. That all went with the UN, and it's now deemed as a great study, when in fact it was a lot of it was flawed. And this is what they're now basing the Welsh education system and the English education system on.
Yeah. And, you know, anyone can look that up. It is, you know, I think it's called adult behaviour in the human male. And, you know, there's certain experiments that they do on children which are horrific. I won't even, you know, discuss them, but it's worth having a look. So, but basically from this point that the girls lost the battle, it was mandatory in schools. I've got this video coming up here, which just shows, you know, as you can imagine, this lady, we did check, we watched intently to see if she was wearing a wedding ring, which she is. So she may have children, grandchildren, which I fear she does. But so you'd imagine the politicians who have got children, grandchildren going through this might have something to say. But this is what our Labour government had to say.
And I'm going to welcome the fact that the Minister has removed the right of withdrawal and is sticking with RSC and health relationships, and that the Welsh Government is going to make that mandatory. And I'm really, really pleased that that is happening. And that is exactly what will happen in schools with allowing RSE education and not allowing the parents to withdraw. Whether that's through fear or misunderstanding, which it very often is. And I will absolutely support this. But I do want to take issue with this idea that it's too radical.
So that's the point. So she's got an issue with the idea that it's too radical. So we're gonna have a little look at how radical it is. But some points in there, how she's really, really pleased.
Yeah.
And how the parents are not allowed. They are not allowing the parents to take their children out, and that this sex education may be too radical.
And I'm glad, Harry, that you gave an age on your when you had this.
10.
10. So
Yeah,
That's a perfect age.
What age are these people talking about for this education?
So from 3, starts from 3.
From 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I got some of the pictures for the framework.
Society. We should never have let haggard shrews have any say in society whatsoever. Not privately, not publicly.
Well, and in fairness,
what does she think she's saving these children from? Like, because she clearly thinks she's saving them from something.
Yeah.
So what?
Well,
being normal.
childhood.
Yeah.
Childhood.
Being children.
Innocence.
Yeah. It's worth noting, like, these people, like she might have been, but obviously this was with Mark Drakeford. Mark Drakeford was the first minister at the time when this went through, because it was under lockdown. Yeah. They used that as an excuse for no public consultation, no awareness. It just so happens Mark Drakeford's son is a convicted paedophile, reoffending.
Just a quick thing as well. I can't help but feel when these people give me this excessively moralistic lecture, I think they know that this is a cover for evil. Right?
Yes.
I think they know they're being evil.
Well, and the labelling of it being,
yeah.
it's fear or misunderstanding is the only reasons that you would oppose this. What about principles?
Yeah. What about decency?
Yes.
Ethics,
What about a disgust reaction that should be very natural in the pit of your stomach when you hear about this sort of thing?
I just don't think these people are good people at all, and I think they know they're not good people.
It's the only solution I've come to. Like, we've studied this, we've watched this, and we've seen it happen, and we've got the framework that they are using. So if I've seen it, she should have seen it if she's going to comment like this. And the framework you'll see is horrific. And so the only conclusion I can come to is that they know what they're doing, and they are evil. So obviously the court case happened. It was due to start in schools almost instantly. However, the schools, they were totally unprepared. They wasn't prepared for it, so they pushed it back a year. The following year, then you did hear things more in the older schools, though. So you'd have in comprehensive schools like LGBTQ corners, quiet sections, spaces, safe spaces, shared toilets, and things like that. Now this year, we're seeing a lot, and I mean a lot from the younger classes as well. So, like everything, and, I've got a complete hat tip to PCP Wales, who I would imagine are quite frustrated now. They're seeing parents complaining about what's happening in schools when they've been screaming about it for 5 years, as loud as they can. So, the warnings went out, people ignored it. The government labelled everybody misguided parents, conspiracy theorists, and all that usual stuff. Yeah, obviously the far right were involved somewhere along the line. But then what happened then is you saw certain things coming out. So this is a sex survey. Now, this was given to young children, 13-year-old, or as young as 13-year-old, and they were asked, so further down in the article, we don't need to go to it, I've got it clipped here, but how old were you when you had sexual intercourse for the first time? And the answers were beginning from 11-year-old and younger. So, like, you got to ask the question, why? What can they do with that information anyway?
Yeah,
why are they
would you
asking?
collect that?
Yeah, and then they've got a list of children who are having sex from 11 and underage. So none of them can consent.
Yeah.
So if you got,
are they taking that information to the police?
Nope, because that's a list of victims ultimately, or potentially.
Well,
it sounds like you're collecting a list of people who've been molested.
Yeah. So my thought of that is, like, my whole argument with this is the next thing that's coming is the lowering of the age of consent. Yeah. So when they, this isn't, oh, look how worrying it is that these young children are having sex. This is, they're having sex. Do we need to lower the age? If they're doing it anyway, why not just make it we can control it and all the stuff that
this
they
is
usually.
a very brave new world, by the way.
Absolutely.
This is exactly what they were.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Wow.
So this document that we've got, so we've gone through this document. It's very well put together, very well referenced as well. So it's very wordy. So what I've done, I've just taken some screen grabs from it. But what I'll do is I'll give you guys the link. So if anybody does want to cross-reference anything I say, you'll find it all.
It'll be in the show notes.
Perfect. So this is what it is. So comprehensive sexuality education. So it's a review of the UNESCO and World Health Organization standards. So what we'll do is just, if we can, just flick through the pictures. I got to get these up on my screen because even though it is massive, I still can't really see it. But these are all in here. So example 1, a screenshot, part of the World Health Organization standards for sexuality education matrix, recommended educators equip children as young as 6 with attitudes towards acceptable sex skills, deal with sex in the media. So that means in the media means porn online.
Yeah.
Information about ejaculation, contraception, sexual language from age 6 to 9.
They just don't need to know about this.
They genuinely 6 to 9. You know, they shouldn't even need to know it. In no way.
This is not language that should be in their lexicon.
No, absolutely not. The next.
I'm sorry. Also, like, people have to teach this. Like, that actually has to be an adult get up in front of a room of other people's children, and tell them about this using this kind of language. What kind of freak?
Yeah.
What kind of freak? Like volunteers to do such a thing.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
We do know that teachers are against it in principle.
I should bloody well hope so.
But
Well, no, you've got to caveat that with the old school teachers are against it. The new age teachers that are coming in seem to be all for it with their blue hair. But yeah, so the next one then, this one is basically it kind of contradicts. So where you'd have safeguarding, that's removed. The safeguarding is removed because the freedom of the child is more important, and the freedom needs. So that this is what this section referenced. We went through these on the show last week, and it took an hour. So I am flying through these.
Right.
So I do recommend that people go and have a look at that document that I put on. The next one then, so this is age 9 to 12. They want to start talking about the first sexual experience, gender orientation, sexual behaviour of young people, love being love, pleasure, masturbation, orgasm, differences between identity and biological sex.
Why can't they learn this on their own?
Well, exactly, but also you've
But
got.
I had to figure this out when I was 13, 12, on my own. It's fine.
Yep.
Nothing bad happened.
No. And again, sitting down with a 9-year-old to talk to them about what their first sexual experience is going to be like.
And gender orientation.
And that's a big one as well. And because that's obviously you're saying it's different to biological. So that's the
Did you know
trans
that
ideology.
you could be something else entirely?
Yeah.
9-year-old. No, I didn't. Can I be such and such?
Yeah. And then the next one then, so this is 0 to 4. And obviously the example on the top.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh my god, I just read that first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
0 to 4. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, right? That they do not need to know any of this stuff.
Is this real?
Yeah, this is
This is real and it's mandatory.
It's like I couldn't.
Yeah, it's not just real, it's mandatory.
Because I couldn't have come up with better propaganda to make people hate whoever wrote this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were paedophiles themselves. Alfred Kinsey was one of them.
So,
I'm well aware. I'll be bringing one up in the next segment.
So for anyone listening, right? I'm just going to read it out. Sexuality for 0 to 4-year-olds. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood masturbation. 0 to 4. Just the discovery of one's own body and genitals. The fact that enjoyment of physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Tenderness and physical closeness is an expression of love and affection. Just like those two last ones would be fine if it wasn't in the context of sexual stimulation. You'd be like, I hug my kids.
Yeah.
But like that is,
Well, you'll have noticed on.
But also, just to say on the other side, before we do flip on, the yellow highlighting at the bottom, what they're talking about then is how, if you do
rules
feel
about
you need
self-stimulation for 4-year-olds.
So they're telling a 4-year-old, and you could tell by the way they do it, because the bottom highlighted part, it's something we should only do when we're alone, perhaps in the bath or shower or bed, a bit like picking your nose. Like you don't, if you're going to teach like an older child about that, 15, 16, you're not going to reference picking your nose to try and make it funny. So they're aiming it at a young, but then that's encouraging.
They say 0 to 4. They tell you exactly the age. But again, why would I want some adult stranger talking to my children like this?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think, that'll give you a good idea. There are a few more, but I am very conscious of time and I want to make sure we get through to the last part. But, there's a lot more on there that are very similar to, what we've just gone through, and it breaks it down from age, all the way through to the point that you would leave school. So, you know, this is what the Welsh Government will have seen. You know, this has been taken apart by the girls and their legal teams who have gone through all of the documents used to create the Welsh education or the global rollout of the comprehensive sexuality education, and they've compiled it with the reference. So it is all referenced. You can go on to the further files and documents to double check it. It's all there and it's all factual, which is mad because, you know, like we're sitting here, we're all adults, and I'm awkward sitting here talking about ejaculation and things like so how would you feel doing that in front of a child as a teacher? You know,
but to normalise it as well, and you'll have seen the slogans, particularly these times of the months where love is love, and love doesn't have an age.
Yeah, love has no age.
Love has no age.
Love is the worst one because you see that getting used a lot, and that is again from, you know, it's one of the quotes from Paedophile Information Exchange, and it was, you know, love is love. It doesn't matter the age. You know, yes, Mambler, yeah, and you know, so people, you see that all over the place now. You know, love is love. In any Pride week, month, year, whatever it is, it'll be up. So then, obviously, you've got the First Minister recently asked about this sex education. So we'll play the video, just and bearing in mind this, you know, what we've just gone through now, and then see if you agree with her.
Will the First Minister make a statement on the provision of sex education in schools?
Diolch yn fawr. The developmentally appropriate relationships and sexuality education is mandatory within the curriculum for Wales. Our RSE code provides crucial safeguarding for learners and helps them to build respectful, trusting relationships through empathy, kindness and compassion.
So age appropriate apparently, and obviously making sure that they say it's mandatory. They say that as often as they can. It's mandatory.
That was all just bullshit, like therapized words of the whole thing. Oh, kindness, empathy, compassion. No, can we have some specifics, please? Which part of all of these guidelines we've just gone through are you so in favour of teaching to 0 to 4-year-olds?
What does she consider kindness?
Well, it feels very sort of devouring mother sort of archetype, right? Where it's like a bunch of old harridans who are like, no, I'm going to have absolute control over this, and I'm essentially going to make sure all of these children are as perverse as I am. Which, I just can't stand it.
Yeah,
like, no father would stand up in the same place and say, yeah, no, this is all good, right?
No.
They'd be like, no, this is an abomination.
Absolutely.
And this is the frustrating thing because, you know, the way they did it was under lockdown, so that, you know, that was their excuse to not inform people as well as they should. You know, I don't know how that is an excuse because they could have easily, you know, you go on Facebook or anything like that. They've got Facebook. They can send out letters. They can do all that. They just didn't try.
I tell you, when we win, we're abolishing the Welsh Assembly.
Yeah.
If for no other reason to make these people unemployed.
Yeah, but I mean, the authors of their macabre booklet were Stonewall and LGBTQ plus and other organisations.
Yeah.
There was no input from what I would say the ethical side of it.
Remember all those allegations against LGBT Youth for Scotland? About the youth organisers.
I don't actually, but I'm going to guess that
you can make a very educated guess.
Yeah. And so yesterday, so just to put it up on the screen, it was RSE Day apparently. So it was the day that the schools would celebrate RSE. So this is from Facebook. This is the new story who Welsh Government funded. And what their plan is to deliver training to teachers to, you know, better equip them to teach about this, you know, and how they can go about it, because teachers have been left. You know, we were in a Facebook group. We met a couple of years ago, and we managed to get into a Facebook group of teachers, and they were all discussing, I had to teach this yesterday. What did you do? You know, what can I use? What documents have you got? So the night before they have to deliver this, they don't know what they're going to do. They're free reigning it basically, which is bad. But then with it being RSE Day, we did get one in particular report. And I'm going to read it out. And I've been very careful to say it because I don't want to give away, out of respect for the parents, I don't want to give away the school. But this, you know, factually happened, and there's going to be more to this coming out soon. But parents of a school in Carmarthenshire, day before yesterday, they've received a text message on their phone. And the text message was, tomorrow it's RSE Day, or tomorrow they're going to have your RSE lesson. Something along them lines. So parents naturally concerned about this. This is for year 6, so 10 to 11-year-olds. Parents naturally concerned called down the head teacher to speak to. The head teacher, first thing basically that she said was that this is mandatory. She made a point that they have to take part in this and they do have to deal with it. The other concern they had is that they were under the impression that if they do have these lessons, the boys and girls would be split up. But the children had informed the parents, no, we're doing it together. We're all in it together, yeah. So, 10 and 11-year-olds...
It's just a recipe for bullying and teasing.
Absolutely, yeah. But
also worse. I mean, when I was at school, we had one lesson of this. And I think, 12, 13, and they were separate classes. So boys and then girls. So, the boys are often not terribly polite to the girls when it comes to this sort of thing. 13-year-old boys are obviously not brilliant at this. So, this is just...
I was the same. We had one lesson and it was, basic, and it was split up. And I think it may be, it probably is an important lesson to have at that point. It was at 15 years old, so nearly at the end, towards the end of the last year, when, you could potentially be sexually active, and they teach you about contraception. They show you how to put a condom on a, not even a pretend thing.
On a banana?
Tube. Not even a banana, no, just a tube, but it was on the table. Teach you how to do it, explain to you the dangers if you don't, what you can catch, STIs, what they cause, pregnancy and all that. And I think that's important, because that's responsibility. You need to know, if you're going to be doing this stuff, what you could be getting into. But what they did yesterday in this school is, I would say, it's questionable whether it's legal or not. So basically, she made a point of saying, look, it's mandatory, it hasn't come from us, it's all from the Welsh Government, and we have to do it. So the head then confirmed to the parents that the children aged 10 and 11 were going to be taught about erections, masturbation, ejaculation, and puberty. So we were then, obviously we heard about it, that it was happening in the morning, so we were waiting then for the afternoon to see what the blowback was from the parents and what actually happened. So at the end of the school, the feedback, the children were absolutely traumatised, visibly upset, to the point that a lot of them didn't even eat their dinner. And, they did give you this lesson and then sent them for food. So visibly upset. A lot of teachers and staff are having to go around, reassure them, checking on them, make sure you're okay. The children were taught all that was mentioned about masturbation, about ejaculation, about erections, but then they were showed pictures, real pictures of a male penis and female parts, zooming in, explaining these are this, that's what this does.
10 years old.
First time most of these children would have seen anything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a 10-year-old. I've got those kids. They don't go through puberty until they're a bit older. It's very unusual for a 10-year-old to be going through puberty.
Yeah.
And that's the point. If you see that a child that's developing far quicker than others, you pull them to one side and you have a private chat, don't you?
Or you involve the parent and ask the parent, what's going on, have you done anything, did you want us to help, or something like that, but be proactive. But I think,
We're going to mandatorily show your children porn. Like hardcore porn, basically.
Like how I can't understand how you can show a minor of that age a picture like that and it not be illegal.
Yeah.
It's
mandatory. It's bloody mandatory.
Mandatory, yeah.
Mad.
And and this is the point. All of the people that were saying leading up to this, and again, hat tip to PCP Wales for doing. They sacrificed everything to court. They quit their jobs. They focused on this 100%.
Good for them.
Took the government to court. They had to raise £100,000 to do that. Yeah. They did it all. They would call everything under the sun. We're still told we're lying. We got a first-hand experience, an example of it that happened yesterday. So please, I'd love the Welsh Government to tell me what happened yesterday to 10-year-olds is age appropriate.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.